Leroy
I'm
Pepe
mad
Le
at y'all for
Pew.
so many reasons this morning.
Leroy.
Okay, you know what? Since you said French it up just a little bit, you made me think of something that I hadn't mentioned. I know y'all all know this, but I did not know this. Let me see if I can find it. So I'm telling y'all right now, the show gonna just be free this morning. Don't be looking for no structure.
So
in
you.
other words, it's a Keith Paris show.
You know, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. We gonna just talk about a few things. But if you came here for content this morning, you might be in a little bit of trouble.
Pepe Le Pew.
Man, I can't get my voice back together. It's just Debo told me I sound like a dude.
Oh no.
Walter.
and then he said Walter. Hey, little Walter. Hey, hey. What? Oh, speaking of, I didn't mention my man from Tony passed away.
Yeah.
That's
Dwayne
crazy.
Wiggins.
Wiggins, yeah. So somebody said no interviews this morning. Okay. Yeah. Don't try to get no slick one in. Hey Shelby, good morning. How you doing? What up, Alex? Dion, oh, no interviews this morning.
Somebody put on there a Keith Paris show with a skeleton.
Oh man, that's brutal.
Yeah, it's a host. I'm just
That is
telling you.
brutal.
If you came here for quality programming this morning,
It's over.
you might have a question. But I just, again, I know y'all know this, but I didn't notice. And did I mention it the other day? Because I was all like a little kid finding this out when did I mention the brother who invented Hidden Valley Ranch?
I just heard that on the.
I just saw that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like.
And the refrigerator.
Tell me more. That's one of my favorite dressings.
So.
Yeah.
I did mention this. So this brother, his name is Steve Henson. And in the 1950s, he came up with the mixture, the recipe for Hidden Valley Ranch dressing. But the thing that was kind of crazy was he was a plumber who worked in Nebraska.
Yeah.
And he worked in, he was from Nebraska. He worked in Alaska. And he would make this this ranch dressing for his coworkers. So it was a powdery substance, and you could just add like what you wanted to it. I don't know if they said like buttermilk, mayonnaise, whatever it is. You could add to it to make it the way you want it to. So it became so popular because in 54, he and his wife moved to California. They bought a ranch, and they named it the Hidden Valley Ranch. Okay. They opened a steakhouse on the ranch, and they served their dressing at this steakhouse, which became hugely popular. Guests was buying the dressing by the jars to take home. He began selling dry mixes of his dressing in 57. And then ultimately, he ends up closing the restaurant and everything else that was on the farm and just on the ranch and just starts making this dressing. So by the 70s, it spreads to the Midwest. It became nationwide after Doritos introduced Cool Ranch Doritos. So the company ended up being bought. He sold it to Clorox, the Clorox bleach. He sold it to their company in 1972 for $8 million. Now, that don't feel like a lot of money to me, but in 72,
that's
if we could look, let me see how much was how much was 8 million? Oh my God, the computer be listening to me.
You didn't know?
So they said that what he sold it for in 1972 for $8 million was the equivalent of about, where did that go? $61 million today. So I guess 8 million was a lot of money in 72. But a brother, so that Hidden Ranch Valley, and it still has the name of his ranch.
Yeah.
So like, what they say? Buttermilk, mayo, sour cream, dried parsley, dried onion, dried garlic, salt and pepper. And you make a fortune off this ranch dressing. I just love that story. Every time I hear it, I'm just like, a brother?
Now, I've gone to some restaurants who have their house dressings, and they are usually pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, because the basic staples and ingredients is the same pretty
Mhm,
much
mhm.
wherever you go. But that was one that just got me when I heard it. And then just real quick, since it's Women's History Month, I want to mention this sister. So many people during COVID-19, people were already using Zoom, but during COVID-19, the use of Zoom and meeting online and Teams and all of this stuff goes through the roof. So I want people to know this sister's name. Her name is Dr. Marion Croak. Dr. Marion Croak invented voice over internet protocol, which is V and then a small o IP technology, which enables video calls like Zoom. She is an engineer and one of the first Black women inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame.
Mm.
So, the invention and the way it impacts us today. People are able to work remotely because of what she invented, join meetings, connect friends and family. And it was during, again, COVID and them lockdowns that her technology made it possible for companies to continue working when people could work remotely and from home. And so it's also been used for virtual video support, text to donate technology. So when somebody says, hey, text 2237 and donate $10 to the hurricane fund, it was a Black woman who created the technology to be able to do that. And so she definitely pushes STEM and science to young girls and the sisters. But when I tell you that this woman is bad, but most of us don't know her name. But again, Dr. Marion Rogers Croak, Croak. And I'm trying to see, she was born in New York in 55. She went to Princeton University and the University of Southern California, has a PhD in social psychology and quantitative analysis, started her career in the 80s at AT&T Bell Laboratories, where she designed text to donate fundraising technology. So again, these texting campaigns, a Black woman creates this technology, which enables people to raise money, make donations, and the first time it was used, Hurricane Katrina.
Michelle,
Yes.
somebody said, wait, streetcar should be doing the Black History Facts.
No.
Come on now,
His is
Those
called
are hood
his
history
is called
facts.
hood history. I got Black history.
Oh, yeah.
He
She got the
should
real
do
deal.
history.
He
Like
got
the first
hood
woman
history.
to make a stocking cap out of her stockings, her pantyhose.
Wait, say what?
The first woman to make
Yeah.
a stocking cap out of her pantyhose.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be hood history.
That'd be hood history.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, man, that'd be Boquisha on
No,
Third and Port
no,
Washington.
because that was too long ago. That was too long ago.
But it's over with though.
That would have had to be Hattie Mack because Boquisha is too modern.
Yeah,
For the-
okay.
The
Willie
stocking cap.
Willie Mae
Yeah, there you
Willie
go.
Mae Armour.
There you go. Yeah.
Willie Mae Jenkins.
It would have had to be right. See, Bo, that's too. The other name was too recent.
Oh yeah.
But let me just.
Oh man, I just
say-
messed up. That's my wife, grandmama name. I know she listening to
You
me.
know,
Oh, see, you done
Yeah.
started.
always doing something
Yeah,
raggedy.
yeah.
Always. So I'll just conclude real quick, just by saying about this sister that she, first of all, I love the idea because there were many of us that did donate to Hurricane Katrina, which heavily impacted the African American community, Black community. That a sister created that technology. She holds over 200 patents. And she has continued to support women while advocating for diversity in the tech industry. Think about that. So you would have a Donald Trump and an Elon Musk somewhere having people question how this woman got to the positions that she was in.
It was DEI.
I mean, yeah, they would be hollering DEI. Look what this woman brought to the table.
Right.
This country was able to keep functioning to a degree, and there are people that are able to work at home and have no idea that it's a Black woman that is responsible for that in great part because of her genius. Um, so uh, she serves as the vice president of responsible AI, artificial intelligence, and human-centered technologies at Google. She's formerly a vice president for site reliability engineering for ads, corporate engineering, and YouTube. She is recognized as an innovator and a powerhouse. So you think about in the tech space and how that's dominated by men, how it's dominated by white men and Indian men, and you got this sister who is regarded by them as a powerhouse. She was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame in 2022, and she is one of the first two Black women to ever receive this honor in 2022. In terms of the National Inventors Hall of Fame, only two sisters, first two were inducted in 2022. So I just had to mention her because I'm a person that's getting more familiar with AI, paying attention to how, a lot of this technology works, and just thinking about how people try to frame us and characterize us when we show, and when I say us, I mean Black folks, when we show up in a workspace. And the idea that it's people questioning how we got in the room, what we bring to the table, if we add value, and if we are smarter than anybody else in the room or as smart as anybody else in the room. So I just want people to understand when you in these rooms, some of y'all in these C-suites and these corporate settings, in these office settings, and you hear the little murmurings and you hear people talking slick, and you got folks like, hey, I need you to understand the very technology you using was brought to you by somebody that is ethnically or racially diverse, gender diverse, and brilliant. Why y'all talking that nonsense? And the other part of that, again, just going back to, I think I mentioned it yesterday, the push by the Trump administration to get rid of the Freedom Riders Museum. And like, but that's American history. So that's like saying I'm gonna go get rid of the statue of Paul Revere, even though the federal government owns it, but I'm gonna go get rid of that. So I just had to bring those two things up. And I'm again encourage people with it being Black History, with it being Women's History Month, that teach your children about remarkable women in your family, even if that remarkable woman is you. Let them know what was accomplished by Big Mama, by your cousin Hattie, by whoever. And if you don't have those stories, but you all do, because people have done amazing things to educate, to uplift, to hold our families together. Make sure you educating your children and then introduce them to people outside of your family and your immediate network and talk about some of these things, because you move differently in a room when you understand, Black people can't do math. Black people can't perform well in STEM. Girls can't do blah, blah, blah. And then when these sisters show up and show out and you know your history and you able to turn around and be like, so yeah, clearly you don't know about, and get to dropping names. That's what we have to be able to do for our folks. Somebody had asked the question about with the caller that called in yesterday about his daughter down at UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham, and what she was going through in terms of her field of study and expertise, which centers around things relative to Black people and the African American vernacular and language. And people were saying, but Michelle, where else do we go? What are those other resources? So I promised people that I would get the information, and I should have it before I get off the air today, just to bring those sites up, because I said that there was a group of professors and Black folks from across the spectrum now. At first, it started off with Black history professors who were saying we have to offer an alternative way to educate our people, since folks are trying to remove this stuff from the classrooms. But then other professionals got in on it, not just history teachers, but people from all arenas start saying, well, hey, I'm willing to teach this to our community, that they may not know. I'm willing to teach this. So it became this whole big community of people being able to go online and get this education for free. Um, so I am going to pull that up and make sure that you have that. In terms of okay, so let me see if this is it. Nope, that one's not it because it's a number of little groups now. But I will get one. But one is called Teaching People's History, Teach the Black Freedom Struggle, online classes 2024 through 2025. So these had started a while back, and you can register. There are upcoming sessions. So this session that starts on March 24th, King of the North, Martin Luther King's freedom struggle outside of the South. And they talk about who's teaching the classes, they're online, and these classes are free. Black Panther Woman, The Political and Spiritual Life of Erica Huggins. I don't know how many people are familiar with Erica Huggins, but you'll learn about that. Black Teachers, A Pedagogy of Organized Resistance. That's a class that's being taught. So there is a bunch of different folks that have come together. Oh, and there's my girl. There's her book right there. Original Sins and Miseducation of Black and Native Children and the Construction of American Racism. That's being taught on September 22nd. So I will get this. I will put a link on my Facebook page. But this is an amazing project where people have said, we don't have to depend on everybody for everything. I'm not saying that we're not supposed to still fight to make sure that our history and important information about our community and culture is taught in public schools and in educational systems because we are a part of the American story, but we also have a responsibility to keep that history alive and tell it ourselves. We have a responsibility. That's why the work that's been done around Juneteenth and all of the different programming around King Day, King Fest. I know Sister Jeanette Herrera had talked about doing Malcolm Fest for Malcolm X. Like, it's up to us, y'all, to tell these stories. So let me take a quick break. When we come back, I'll have a couple stories for you we need to talk about. Folks are busy. And the Republican Party is just sitting on the sidelines because I say them because they're the ones that got the power right now. And this stuff is hitting home. And so we'll talk about that when we get back on the other side of the break.
Donald Trump is out of control, stopping payments for healthcare and food for hungry kids, eliminating the Department of Education, and letting Elon Musk access your most private information. Now Trump and Musk are backing Brad Schimmel because they know he'll let them do whatever they want. Not Judge Susan Crawford. She'll be the check and balance we need to protect us from Trump when he goes too far. That's why we need Judge Susan Crawford on the Supreme Court.
with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, family, let me deal with a national story that's interesting. A lot of people have been trying to figure out what former Vice President Kamala Harris is going to do um, since coming off the November election defeat. And because she's still young, and she has public service in her veins. We didn't think that she would go somewhere and sit down. Um, what do you do? And while we know Barack Obama will never probably work for anybody ever again, not in a cash paycheck week to week kind of situation. Because once you've been the president of the United States, what else is there to do? What's the next job? You consult, you write books, I don't know, but you definitely don't go back, to a 9 to 5, even as an elected official. So Kamala Harris has been the subject of a lot of conversation. What is she going to do? What's going to happen? Well, the California governor's race is in play. And Kamala Harris, former VP Harris, has not made up her mind yet, or she's not told the public yet, whether or not she is going to run to be the vice president to be the governor of California. Now, here's where it gets sticky for me. I don't live in California. This is not my drama. But as they're trying to figure out who is going to succeed Governor Gavin Newsom, one of my favorite elected officials just got into the race. So, Congresswoman Katie Porter, who, I'm sorry, if you watch her in action, this woman is brilliant. Her ability to articulate an issue, to break that down for lay people to understand it, and to smack somebody in the face with facts is nothing short of masterful. When I say the very first time I ever saw Congresswoman Katie Porter speak at a committee hearing, my mouth was open, because I have seen some folks be masterful on committees, but not a lot, not a ton. They're memorable. A lot of people, you just talking from the talking points that your staff put together by way of questions. And yep, you can have a brilliant staff, but still it comes through. These ain't your questions. You have no depth on some of these issues, and it shows up. One thing that I always appreciated about former state representative Lakeisha Myers, she did her own committee prep. Her staff didn't do her committee prep in terms of, reading the bills. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to say. This is what you need to ask. She did her own committee prep. Senator Taylor, you put her stuff in front of her. She was a beast on committee. But it's a lot of people that don't do that. They don't. They have not read the bills thoroughly. They do not understand all the implications. They let lobbyists come in and do a bill summary. The staff does the bill summary. And in part, that's what they're supposed to do. That's what they are supposed to do. But I remember Kathleen Vinehouse has a PhD when she was a senator. And Kathleen Vinehouse would have binders full of the bills that they were going to go through. And when she stood up to talk, you knew she knew that bill inside out. You just knew it. When Lakeisha would stand up and talk, you knew she knew a bill inside out. Like nobody had said, hey, pay attention to this, pay attention to this, pay attention. No, that girl was beastie with it. And in part, you got to do it because you only got one staff. when you first get elected your freshman year as a state legislator. You get 1.5 later after if you're successful in the second term. You know, we could watch Lena come in and slice and dice a bill. So there are folks that, because of the way I understand how important policy can be and how nuggets are hidden, and the command of a legislator to be able to walk somebody through a bill, walk them back when they say in BS about a bill. It's just nothing. Oh my God. People talk about what's your love language. That becomes mine. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this race, because Katie Porter is brilliant. But Katie Porter is going to have a problem. And it's funny, Keisha's listening. I just saw a text from her. She was like, I'm getting to it. Katie Porter tore her draws with a lot of her California Dems, though, in the Senate race. Behind the scenes, the state party is coalescing behind Kamala. Yeah, they are. If Kamala comes out and says, former VP Harris comes out and says she's going to run for that seat. So it's going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting because this is where, and both of these women are brilliant. Okay. Both of them are brilliant. And even though people will coalesce around VP Harris, it will be interesting to see, because while political Dems may have a problem with the politics of Katie Porter and, her running in the Senate race, the lay people, the everyday voters, may not understand all of the politics and the nuance of what's happening. So keep your eye on what's going on down in California as this whole thing kind of, plays itself out. I don't know. I don't know that it's going to be an easy in for Vice President Harris. I think it's going to be interesting because folks know that what happens at the local level is very different from politics that's happening inside of a party. Now, let me also bring something else to your attention. So we have been, and thank you, Dion. Dion flagged it. I had it on my loose list of things to talk about. Dion was like, hey, flag this, Michelle. Tell the community, pay attention. So I'm actually just going to take the article and then I'll talk about it. The Agricultural Department has axed, they've cut 2 programs that gave schools and food banks money to buy food from local farms and ranchers, halting more than $1 billion in federal spending. Roughly $660 million that schools and child care facilities were counting on to purchase food from nearby farms through the local food and Food for Schools Cooperative Agreement. This program, this is the 2025 program, has been canceled. State officials were notified last Friday, 3-4 days ago, of the USDA's decision to end the program for this year. So you telling somebody in 2025, March, that you're ending a program that most of these people have already factored into their budgets and their ability to service and feed children across this country. Excuse me. More than 40 states has signed agreements to participate in previous years, according to the agency. The Local Food Purchase Assistance Cooperative Agreement Program, supports food banks and other feeding organizations. This money is now cut. USDA notified them that it was unfreezing funds for their existing agreements, but did not plan to carry out the second round of funding that was set up for fiscal 2025. The spokesperson said, from the USDA, said that the funding, which was previously announced last October, pre-Donald Trump, is, quote, no longer available. And those agreements will be terminated following 60-day notification. These programs, the spokesperson went on to say, created under the former administration via executive authority, no longer effectuate the goals of the agency. And the agreements that were in place prior to 2025 will still have financial resources remaining, but there will be nothing new that'll be available for these programs. Under the Biden administration, he expanded spending for both of those programs to make sure that the food supply chain didn't have to just rely on major companies, that we could also tap in to local farmers to be able to help out. They did an additional $1 billion in funding for these programs. So who was benefiting from these programs? Americans, because you buy in locally, and the children in the community are the recipients. The Trump administration has moved to halt the programs as school nutrition officials are becoming increasingly anxious about affording healthy food with the current federal reimbursement rate for meals. As costs for food has risen in the last few years, more people are turning to these food banks and other feeding organizations to supplement increased groceries. So it's not just children. If you have used a food bank, Hunger Task Force, Feed America, all of these organizations stand to be impacted this year, because agreements that have been put in place by the Biden administration, Trump is now saying, yeah, doesn't really make America great again to feed people. We're going to need that money for something else. So one state alone, Massachusetts, said that the governor, Maura Healey, said that this decision, her state would lose $12 million that it was going to be given just to school districts. $12 million. So as we continue to watch the dismantling of programs, Trump deciding and Elon Musk deciding, what we value, what we keep, what we get rid of. I'm telling y'all, these midterm elections become critical. These state Supreme Court races are, I cannot stress enough how important this stuff is. And I'm going to tell you, pay attention even at the superintendent's level, because I want to know what Brittany Kinzer has to say about the proposed elimination of the Department of Public Education. You want to understand where Jill Underly, who currently is the superintendent of DPI, what have these people said about these departments? Where do people land on school lunch, on the importance of this funding coming? Because, see, some of this is going to be problematic, particularly for Brittany Kinzer, who was running for the superintendent of the Department of Public Instruction, because you're going to be speaking against the Republicans that's helping to support your campaign. So pay attention, y'all. I need y'all to read between the lines. When you hear these ads, when you go to church and these folks are sitting up in your churches, when you got people that are leaders in this community that you have trusted and they start pushing Brittany Kinzer to you for a superintendent, I need y'all to pay attention and to ask some critical questions. Where are you on the closing of the Department of Education? And how does that affect Black children in particular if it closes? Where are you on how Republicans have traditionally treated education in this state, since many of them are your donors and people walking you around fundraising for you? Where are you on those issues? How are you signing your name to certifications for teachers and instructors that you don't have yourself? It's a flaw in the way the system is set up. She doesn't have to have it, but it just makes sense that if I'm going to sign off on somebody to be an electrician, I should be an electrician. Michelle, the sacker at Walmart, shouldn't be signing off on somebody to be an electrician. We have got to use what we have to be able to protect some of these systems. Folks call them entitlements, but let's be real. We already know that the bulk, way too many children in this country depend on free and reduced lunch to have a good hot meal every day that they are in school. And there are parents who still making minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, who depend on the backup that, hey, I know my child gonna eat school lunch today, so I don't have to buy lunch meat and bread and chips and juice for them to take to school, because that's just one more thing I cannot afford. It's just one more thing I cannot afford. Somebody says, does this eliminate the summer meal programs? It easily could. It easily could. That's the thing that we are trying. Hey, that's the thing that we are trying to figure out as we go through all of this. It easily could. Somebody sent the the thing, the fundraising announcement. Gerard Randall, House Republican, John Daniels, cordially invites you to join them for a breakfast reception in support of Brittany Kinzer, candidate for for superintendent of public instruction. This is happening today from 8 to 9:30 a.m. at the home of Gerard Randall. Yeah, I knew about this, and the thing is as I've said, you got to pay attention. Anytime Republicans is leaning in on education, it's a problem. And generally, it does not benefit Black children overall. It might benefit Black children that go to a choice church school, but it does not benefit the overwhelming majority of Black children that go to public schools. Republicans are constantly siphoning away money from public education, from public taxpayers, to put their kids in private situations that they either cannot afford or they don't want to spend their own money on. So they're going to take hours to make sure that their kids can be further segregated from kids in Milwaukee public school districts and urban school districts around the country. Brittany Kinzer has told people, or has intimated, or her campaign has some, nonsense about being a blue dog Democrat. If Gerard Randall is supporting you, that's a problem, as far as I'm concerned. Sherwin Hughes and Leaders for a Community, whatever his group is called, that's a problem, because that's choice schools. And again, I certainly respect that we have multiple systems. I respect a parent's right to pick a different system for your child. But when you start using taxpayer money to do that, we got to have a different conversation. So I want to know where Brittany Kinzer has been on all of the cuts and the problems that Republicans have created for education for children, particularly Black children in this community. I want to know. I want to know. And I want to be clear. It ain't because I think Jill Underly is no rock star. I don't. It's not that at all. But I got to look at the totality of policy, because you understand the undue influence that legislators will have on the Department of Instruction. And if I'm writing the checks to help get you in office, that usually can come with some expectations. Now, some people will look at them checks and be like, you need to understand, when you give it to me, that this does not mean I am going to do your bidding. I'm going to do what you want. I'm going to do what's best for everybody. Republicans have just not demonstrated that they're willing to do that when it comes to education. I don't care how many times we drag out Polly Williams' face in our name. They use Polly Williams. They played Polly Williams. If truth is just told, she was in it for all the right reasons. They were not. And they use little black kids as the poster child to create a situation where they could pull their kids out of these public schools and create little havens for them and funnel resources to them and allow them to basically discriminate, because kids with disabilities don't have to be allowed in these schools. They have the ability to turn those children away. They have the ability to turn away undesirable children. The public schools don't have that ability. And then when it comes down to accountability, the data is out there. They don't perform any better than most public schools. In fact, some of them are abysmal and should be closed. So I'm just telling y'all, and I'm going to say it again. I just got a text message. The state legislature reimburses special education at 90%, but public schools get 30%, when the majority of kids in Wisconsin attend public schools. So how is that? How is that? And this is from an educator. How is that? We got real things we got to pay attention to, y'all. So I don't care whose name is on a fundraiser invite. I don't care whose name is on a commercial and an ad. We got to look at the big picture. And I'm just going to go all the way out and just say, Brittany Kinzer has not shown me what we need to see as a community, as a black community, how our children benefit from her being there. And yep, I'm going to say it like I said yesterday. I understand why these choice schools is at the table. I understand. Because they have had problems with Jill Underly. But I can't let all black kids fall by the wayside so you can say your kids at your choice school. I can't do it. Because them 200-300 kids y'all serve don't look nothing like them 60,000, 70,000 kids that's in Milwaukee public schools. So while John Daniels and them is out here beating the drum for Brittany Kinzer, that's about choice school and protect the Holy Redeemer. I'm telling you, I got a responsibility to protect all of our children. All of them kids at MPS, I got a responsibility to them too. And they can't tell me what Brittany Kinzer is going to do to protect all them damn kids. They're going to protect, or they hoping that she'll help protect their own. I got to take a break. I'll be right back.
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. So before I switch gears, I got a question and got a caller. The question that was sent to me via text says, does the money stay with choice or does it come back to MPS if the child goes back? It stays with the school. It stays with the choice school. So, it doesn't work out. The family is not satisfied. Whatever goes on, for whatever reason, the child comes back to Milwaukee Public Schools. Milwaukee Public Schools has to figure out how to educate that child for the remainder of that year. But that money in full stays at the choice school. They don't have to send that money back. No. I mean, there are a lot of reasons that people get frustrated with these systems. And I understand that. And again, I said yesterday, I'm not arguing the merits of choice. I'm not. I understand that these systems exist right now. I believe that these children have to be properly educated no matter where they are. My issue is the overall good for all children, not just children that go to some of these churches that have schools. For all children. And if some of these churches are aligning with Republicans, I got a problem with that. Because traditionally in Wisconsin, Republicans have not been good for public education, and they have definitely not been good for Black children. The funding flaw that Lena and them fought for years in the state capitol about Milwaukee not receiving a fair share and equitable funding for our education system. What Scott Walker and them did to education was criminal as far as I'm concerned. And then when it suited his needs, when he was running for president, all of a sudden, mysteriously, now we got all of this money to dump back into education. But you got Republicans around the country talking about cutting food lunch programs. I just read to you what the USDA is doing. This is all at the behest of Republicans. So anytime Republicans come near public education, I get antsy. And Brittany Kinzer, while she may be telling people, I'm a Democrat, kinda, you too close with Republicans for me. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening? Might fell out. Hello? All right, that's okay. All right. So let me do this. Because before I ended last week, I was fortunate enough to have in the village president, none other than Miss Wanda Montgomery, who is also running for re-election over in the village of Brown Deer village president. And a number of things came up. We didn't have enough time. And I wanted her to circle back because while she is not running a contested race, Wanda has been out knocking doors. I've talked to people who have seen her, and folks have talked about the work. But there were, questions that I just had as somebody who frequents I don't live in Brown Deer, but I shop in Brown Deer. I care about what's going on. Brown Deer was one of the reasons I chose the area that I lived in when I first moved to Milwaukee, because it was such a sprawling area, businesses, access, restaurants, the major mall. I mean, it was all right there. And so Wanda was gracious enough to agree to come back in today so we can finish this conversation. Hey, Miss Montgomery, how you doing today?
I am blessed and highly favored.
Before we get into our conversation, I did see, somebody said, don't forget about what Scott Walker did when he was the county exec. Well, never. And we had a chance to elect Lena then, and we didn't, but okay. We let I ain't gonna start. Y'all not gonna get me this morning. I'm not gonna start. But Wanda, when I was talking about the caller yesterday who mentioned his daughter and her being a professor down at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and what she was facing in relationship to her area of academic discipline.
Yes.
And that this woman has worked in this field for years, and now her basic discipline is under attack because it centers on Black culture in terms of our vocabulary, vernacular, the way we communicate, our style, and that, and people trying to dismiss this as something that's valid. Would you be willing to share with listeners what you shared with me this morning?
So my daughter, some people know her and some don't because she's been gone from Wisconsin over 30 years. She is currently the dean of the School of Education at UW-Madison. And when she did her research for a PhD, she was really focused on the importance of preserving our language. And her thesis was cultivating racial and linguistic diversity in literacy teacher education. Underneath that, teachers like me. And so what she really focused on is, I don't want to come into the classroom and be perceived as a Black woman teaching white language, so to speak. You know, people talk about us being speaking proper English. But she thought and felt like you need to bring all of who you are to the classroom, because our children need to see it. They need to know that who they are is not less than, but is as important as anyone else. And so that's what she's taught. That's how she's lived her life. That's how she's gone through. You know, she got her PhD at Boston College and went to Syracuse University and went through 7 years straight and got her, she was, what is it called? Tenured.
Oh,
She was tenured
wow.
straight through, first time for a Black woman at Syracuse.
Oh my God.
And she's the first Black woman to be a dean of the School of Education at UW-Madison. But she comes to it with who she is, raised in Sherman Park, not 53206, but 53210. But that's who she is. And that's what she's done her entire professional life. And she ain't changing.
But you know, and if I could, and like I said, I know you're here for one reason, but since I got you here,
Mhm.
I got to do this, because when we think about the historic Grays childcare,
Right.
you know, your family has been around education,
Absolutely.
around the development of Black children, your affiliation with the Black Childhood Development Institute, and the current status as president, or
I'm president, but I'm interim ED right now.
okay, and executive director, okay, of this organization. So when we hear people, you know, that talk about how we show up as children in classrooms, how we present, just over watching your mother and your family over the years and the work that you've done in this arena, Wanda, how important is it, the work that your daughter did? You know, how important is that to our overall success as we navigate these institutions?
It's important because she's an example for other young Black and white. It's not just Black.
Right.
But she set a standard. And what I will tell you is my granddaughter graduated last year from Syracuse.
I remember when you left.
And her degree is in early childhood education, special ed. She's back there now getting her master's in literacy. So my granddaughter, my daughter, me, my mother, there is a history of education. There's a legacy of education. When my daughter went to Madison to do her interview for the deanship, she wouldn't even tell me and my husband. It happened to be the same time that she was coming home from my mother's 90th birthday. And while she was in the house, my niece said, "You better tell your parents." Because she told us, "Oh, I got to go to Madison for a meeting, so I'm going to be here longer."
Okay.
My mother passed that Monday, the 29th.
I remember.
My daughter was in Madison on May 1st, presenting to several different committees. And she had already done her PowerPoint, and she highlighted my mother in her PowerPoint for a presentation. Little did she know that there were people in that room that knew my mother. And one of the men there said, my wife, years ago, worked with your mother at Graves Child Development. So there is a history, there's a legacy. Education is the foundation for us doing whatever we do. If you can't read, and you can't write, and you can't add up them numbers, you're not going to be successful. We have taught our children early, and we continually reinforce it. So when I have people tell me what folks can't do, I know what you can, but you got to plant those seeds early. And we see our children. If they can learn all the words to some of these songs and the rhythm and the rhymes,
I watch what they can do with my cell phone already.
I'm telling you, they can beat me.
You mess around and let a little kid get your cell phone and watch them. And I'm like watching my grandson even do stuff on the television at home at 4 years old. And I'm looking at his dad like, he said, yeah, like, he was teaching me some stuff. I mean, it's crazy. So that part, you know, and I will just say this too. Again, I got to take advantage of it while you're here. So as we are now in the throes of getting a new superintendent in Milwaukee Public Schools, we got the DPI race, we got the Department of Education under threat. Do you have any suggestions or things that Black parents should be thinking about, or parents in general, but our community has been hit particularly hard when you think about proficiency rates and the information we're getting. But, you know, I was telling people that it took me a minute to learn that there was an expectation that when my grandson hit K5, he already knew his colors, his numbers, his this. There's an expectation that they come with
prepared, ready to learn.
And but I think like particularly me, because I was a young parent, even though I just ended up teaching my son a lot of stuff anyway, but that no, this is where you go to get the information. I can send you in there raw, and they're going to teach you numbers, colors, the basics. And I had educators talking to me and telling me, no, Michelle, that's not the expectation anymore.
No. And from my perspective, it wasn't the expectation when I was raising my children. You need to plant those seeds yourself early. Sending your kid. It's like when we go to a new job, most times you don't go in there just raw. You got the job because you knew something before you came there.
Right.
So parents need to take the time. You may not be fully equipped, but there's somebody around you that is. How do you expose your children to the things that they need to know? If you can't read at a certain level, there are people out here. We don't take the time a lot of times. When I think about what's changing now, and this election is a sleeper. Those April elections, people just brush them off. Right. And that's where you get the superintendent of schools. That's where you get Supreme Court justices. That's where you get judges. That's where you get in local municipalities, county, different offices. And we don't pay attention. And then when they get elected, you sitting there, well, I didn't know that they were this. And most times because we can't afford to pay the amount of money that some of these national races or statewide races. But that's why I put the boots on the ground. I go out there and I walk. Yesterday, I did 15 miles. And people looking at me, they stopping me along the way talking. I'm like, I got to keep going. I go to houses and they like, come on in. I'm like, I got to keep going. So sometimes you got to put the work in. Just like our children, they got to put the work in. How do they put it in? First, parents have to encourage them to do it. You got to provide the opportunity for them to do it. We provide cell phones, tablets, all of these other devices, games. Make them educational. Make them educational. Get them books. Don't punish them with the books. Provide books that are reaffirming to who they are. You know, I got a office over here full of Black books, and you know it.
Yes.
Don't bring me all this other stuff. I don't want to see it. I want positive messages and positive books that will reinforce who we are and who we can become.
An educator just sent me something. They said if your child comes to school and they can't read, they are on track to be further behind.
Right.
So I will pivot to why you're here. But I think that it is so important. I keep stressing. It was funny when I was somebody else just weighed in. Our community has to vote when no one comes to get us. Those are the most important elections.
Absolutely.
So we got to know. And I remember Lena and them used to have this acronym FAN, February, August, November. It was something else.
No, it's February, April. No, it's two.
It's two A's.
FAAN.
I was thinking two N's, but it's two A's.
FAAN.
February, April, August, and November.
Absolutely.
That people needed to vote. Somebody said education has to be a priority at the house. I know one of the things that I had for my son, and I was thrilled, even though his mom is a school psychologist, I wasn't, I didn't expect any less. There's a whole education corner, so the books, there's a library. There's all the markers, the pens, the chalkboard, all of the resources are right there. So, you understand it's built into what we do. To the point, though, that you made about as someone that is in elected office, and even without having an opponent, feeling the need to still go out and connect with people, knocking on doors. Yeah, I need to do your 15 miles. Why, Wanda? Because, you should be able to sail on through this election.
I can. And I know that. But that's not who I am. I don't believe you take anything for granted. Just because I'm the only name on the ballot is not going to cause people to come out. Me going to the doors gives me an opportunity to reconnect with people. For them to tell me, yep, you're doing a good job. Nope. I had a woman Sunday afternoon with her German Shepherd, not on a lease. When I went to take her information, she's like, I don't want it. I'm like, okay. And I just kept going. But my car was parked by her house. Okay. So I kept going. When I came back, she's standing out there waiting on me with the German Shepherd.
No.
And she yelled at me and said, what happened to the money from the towers? And I'm like, huh? The money from the cell towers, because we had cell towers in Brown Deer.
Okay.
That got sold, but it happened either when I first came on the board or before.
Okay.
And I said, I believe it went to the general fund. You don't know? I said, I believe it went to the general fund. Well, that's why I'm not voting for you. I said, well,
really?
I'm not a walking encyclopedia. Yeah, people are not going to vote for you. I said, well, I think they will because I'm unopposed. And she looked, I said, yeah, I'm unopposed for the second time.
So you're not even dialed in.
To know.
Yes, see, that's the other thing. I love how people act like they so civically this and that, and then you don't know who your elected officials are. You don't know the candidates in the race. So that was a funny moment. And not to mention that single issue stuff.
Right.
Do you know everything that goes on in Brown Deer? And it's important.
Right.
But do you understand everything that's happening around us right now? So
a lot of people don't. And so the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because I believe it's important to ask, not assume. I also believe that as I'm going out, letting people know I'm on the ballot, if they come out to vote for me, they'll vote for the other people that are on. For me, one thing that I have not done, and people look at me like, how come you ain't got all these people? I don't put other people's names on my literature. I don't need everybody to endorse me.
Right.
What I need is for the people that I represent to vote for me because they know what I've been doing.
Right.
This is my fourth time campaigning. I went to folks' houses yesterday and Sunday and Saturday who said, oh, I remember you when you first ran. You got my vote. You don't have to give me no literature. I already know what you're doing. I can see what you're doing. That's reaffirming, but I need to be out there because I want to set the example for the next person that comes behind me don't just get your name on the ballot and go sit down.
Yeah, we see that way too often. So speaking of, what's being done, what's getting done, when you were here last time, I had brought up the whole retail space over there off of was that Green Bay?
Green Bay.
Where the TJ Maxx, Burlington, all that used to be. And I had seen an article most recently, February 11th, struggling Brown Deer Retail Center could get a new Target store and housing over there. Now, the one thing I have noticed is housing coming in that area.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I also understand is that when you begin to see housing development, stores realize this is a built-in clientele.
Absolutely.
You ain't got to chase money.
That's right. They're right already there.
And these are nice, affordable and market rate housing. It's a mixture, obviously, of what's going on. So I know you weren't at liberty the last time you were here to talk about something.
I cannot confirm or deny. So, you can do.
So I will leave that out there. But the things that you can confirm, what are the projects, Wanda, that is making the difference over in Brown Deer? Because after Northridge, people still kind of associate that with Brown Deer.
Right.
And after the demolition of that and the fact that it sat dormant for 20 years, and then, I come to the area, this store is gone, this store is gone, and people get antsy and nervous. So what has it, first of all, what has it been like trying to recruit businesses for that area? And what does that look like? How do you go about even doing that?
So first of all, you have to have staff and elected officials that are willing to look at new opportunities.
Okay.
Our board right now, everybody on there is younger than me in terms of not age, but serving.
Okay.
So I'm 7 years. Everybody else is 5, 4, 3.
Okay.
2. So they're new. But we also have a new village manager. And so some of the charge we had was we need to look at all of this vacant. We had tons of vacant buildings. Some were vacant with busted out windows. What do we do with these properties? That TJ Maxx area is the biggest parcel. We got another area behind Family Table. Mm-hmm. But what I do know is once developers begin to see that there's opportunity, they come in with their proposals. We're not going to do everything that comes because we want to be mindful of what we want in the village and what's going to support everything else. I had somebody told me yesterday, I don't want another stop sign on Brown Deer Road, and I don't want any more apartments. Really? The challenge is developers are not building houses, single family homes, not in the small space that we have. Right. We're 4.5 square miles. So that's Brown Deer. We're from 68 going east to the river, county line to Calumet. That's it. 4.5. That's why I can walk it. I can walk it. I can walk the whole village.
Crazy.
That's what we have. And so you can't build out. You got to build up, or you got to redevelop something that's already there. So what you see coming up was because there were vacant buildings, right, for over 20, some almost 30 years. That them office buildings were not coming back. No. After COVID, they're not coming back. So what do? Do we leave vacant buildings, or do we build housing? And so we have multi levels of housing. But anybody that's looking to do apartments, we have it's not mandatory, but what we do is say you got to do some commercial space. So the units that you see coming up on Brown Deer Road, if you look right in front, it's over an acre sitting there for what? Commercial. We're not putting housing right on Brown Deer Road. So then they got to bring a commercial business in front.
Okay. Let me do this. Do I need to take a break, Jay? I'm going to take a break when we come back. And I got some people commenting on Facebook. that have a couple of questions, so I'll get those in. But look, I'm sorry. I wanted the extended conversation. We don't often talk about brown deer, but so many people live in brown deer.
Absolutely.
Like I said, shop in the area that, you know, it's his own village, it's his own city, but it feels like, you know, we don't pay enough attention to what's happening. And we need to, because we are definitely impacted, whether it's the school system in Brown Deer. And that was a question that came up on Facebook. So I got you. I'll ask that question. But let me take a quick break. Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Be right back.
Donald Trump is out of control, stopping payments for healthcare and food for hungry kids, eliminating the Department of Education, and letting Elon Musk access your most private information. Now Trump and Musk are backing Brad Schimmel because they know he'll let them do whatever they want. Not Judge Susan Crawford. She'll be the check and balance we need to protect us from Trump when he goes too far. That's why we need Judge Susan Crawford on the Supreme Court.
T-Mac was like, your mic is hot.
Don't say nothing.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Taking time this morning to talk to candidate and the incumbent for the Village of Brown Deer presidency. Is it called president? It's the president, right?
Mhm.
None other than Miss Wanda Montgomery. So I told you I had a couple of questions. One question that came through is the easy one, so I'll just ask right off the top. It was a text message. How many homes are in foreclosure in Brown Deer? I need some information. What say you?
If there's any in Brown Deer, I have no knowledge. We don't track any foreclosures, so that typically goes through the county.
That's interesting because, like here in the
We're
city,
Milwaukee County.
Yeah, because in
The city does their own.
You're right.
Because we're part of the county, it goes through the county.
Help people understand that piece real quick when you say because we're part of the county.
Well,
what does that mean?
You got 17 other municipalities outside of
Milwaukee, right?
Milwaukee's big enough that they can handle their own. Municipalities, we don't have that many.
Okay.
And so usually if it's foreclosed, now if it's from a bank or something like that, the bank would hold it. We don't hold it.
Okay.
And if it's for taxes, it would go through the county.
So that's interesting. I never.
Or if it's an estate thing too.
Right. So you guys wouldn't know anything about that
unless somebody called and told me, or sometimes I find out. But the process can be really long if it's through the county.
Okay.
And a bank might, list it on what do they call it? It's a site that they list foreclosed properties.
Okay.
But as the president or the village itself, our staff, we have no knowledge.
Okay. That was a good clarification point too, because I think people don't always, while we always hear, the county executive, there are 19 municipalities, blah, blah, blah. Understanding that Milwaukee, because of its size, is able to function and operate a little bit differently is something we don't really think about. We think that everybody has the same opportunity. So one of the questions that came up was there was an article in the paper last year about $21 million in mixed use redevelopment. And the person on Facebook was like, could you talk a little bit about how those dollars, is that still happening? How those dollars have been used or what they can expect?
It depends on what project. If there was 20, now we didn't give $21 million. It may have come something that we worked with the developer. So we may have have a TIF district where we may borrow them money up front and then they pay it back over time. So it depends on.
Sorry, I'm smiling because I had never heard anybody phrase it that way until I came to Wisconsin. Instead of saying loan their money, when you say borrow their money, I just said so. As soon as you
know what
it,
you know what I
mean, it took me back to when I first came here and the nuances. But yeah, so because I pulled it up, the marketplace of Brown Deer, one of the highest priority areas for commercial growth in the village, now has a developer ready to take on a $21 million mixed use redevelopment project. So I guess that's what they were referring to.
And so we work with them to see. Because it's in a TIF district, what kind of assistance they need. And so we help on the front end, but there is a repayment over time. And sometimes developers repay that money sooner than what we may anticipate. But what I would say to your listeners, keep your eyes on Brown Deer, because there's a lot. Right now, when I came, was elected first, we had 3 parcels that were for sale for $1.
Right, you mentioned that.
All 3 of those parcels have been sold.
But what were the conditions? Because
they're in awkward places and they're not that big.
Okay.
So one is on the corner of Titonia and Calumet.
Okay.
Right across from and that's the border of Brown Deer. So a guy bought that and he's going to build some smaller storage units that you can have light industrial in a unit, or you can use for your storage for all of your equipment and supplies if you have a small business. So instead of having it in your home, have it there.
Okay.
Another parcel was just a little ways down on Titonia, where a guy purchased it and he built a building to house his antique cars.
Okay.
So that's the second one. The third one is on Bradley.
Sorry, I was like,
hey,
Chairman Spencer should give him a call.
Well, The third one
Oh my God.
is on
Oh my God.
47th and Bradley, where they purchase it and they're going to build the office building and some units for community-based residential treatment for senior citizens. And that's going to be where the old Celebrations was on Bradley Road.
Yeah, okay. So I just got a chance to go to Kitchen and Cocktails.
Yes.
Stop by there. You were having a fundraiser and I stopped by. And that was my first time in there. Met the owners.
Mhm.
We're going to get them in and talk to them. I was impressed. I like the way it's set up. You know, I was saying when I was in Philly, having somewhere to go to dine in the evening
Right.
time, that's just chill and relax. So that was actually pretty cool. But when you think about what you've been able to accomplish, so one or two things that you are most proud of, or you see the biggest impact, and then what's the vision for your next term?
So what I'm proud of is being able to bring together a team. You know, everybody that's on the board now, I either ask or encourage to run
Okay.
and then help them with their campaign. Because you need people, like-minded people, to work together. When I came on, that was not the case. I had people fighting me they didn't even know me, but just because I was there.
Right.
What I really appreciate that's happened under my leadership. There was an article that came out, not an article, but a report last week from our police department, how crime has been reduced in Brown Deer, thefts, all of it. It's documented. So what I tell people a lot of times when they start talking about this is happening, that, and I understand perception, but what I look at or say, like Al Sharpton, you can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts. Facts matter. One of the things that we had people talking about Walmart and how horrible it was. Well, we now have a partnership with Walmart where we have police officers that are in there, and they're not there because Brown Deer are paying them. They're there on their own hours, overtime. But that has reduced the crime, the theft at Walmart to the point that it was my understanding this past year, 2024, they were able to give their employees a bonus for the first time, Christmas bonus, because of the amount of theft that went down. They had the money to do that. I think the other thing for me is looking at all the new development that has come up in the last 3 years. And we're primed for a number of other new developments coming up in the next year or two. What I want to see in Brown Deer is every vacant building filled with new life. Every single one filled with new life. We approved last night some of the things that buildings that people sell, they have to come back to us before it gets sold completely because of the business that somebody wants to do. We have a collector's business there. Man collects baseball cards and things like that. Collectibles.
Okay.
That's in Brown Deer. We had to do a conditional use because of the building that he wanted. Last night, we approved a conditional use, and conditional use is where you approve something for a year to see how it works.
Okay.
And then they come back before you for a regular permit. But a kennel where you can leave your pets, you know, when you're going on vacation.
We used them before.
So, and last
had
night,
to go to Brookfield to find one.
Right. Well, we're going to have one in Brown Deer.
Okay.
And so last night, there were residents that lived behind where this is going to be. They were on the call. They had questions about the noise and about this and about that. And we worked together through that. We had a public hearing last night to really look at how it should work, what they need to have in place. And it was approved. So those are the types of things that we want. We want unique businesses. So you saw Kitchen and Cocktails last week. I'll be there tonight with a group of people. But on Saturday, we have Cream City Sports.
I love that.
Right. So I'll be there on Saturday.
I gotta get their owners in. I went there with Keon.
Right.
Love that venue.
Right. And so they're going to host a fundraiser for me on Saturday from 3 to 5. So we'll be there. And it's March Madness, so come on out. I don't know who playing, but it'll be on the TV.
When I tell you, yeah, Keon, because I can't think of his name, DJ. He DJs there. Big dude. I can't believe I can't think of his name. Doc B.
Oh,
So Doc B.
yeah, because they have different DJs.
Yeah,
So does Kitchen and Cocktails have
Okay.
different. But I think the other thing that's coming up in Brown Deer, we got a Starbucks coming on 60th and Brown Deer Road.
What?
Yes. And on 48th and 48th and Brown Deer Road, we have what they call Sage
60th
Winds. It's right on the corner across from Walgreens.
Okay.
On 48th and Brown Deer Road, we got Sage Winds, which is upscale Quick Trip. And it's the second one that's being built in the state by Forest County Potawatomi. They ain't asking for no money. They bringing all their own money.
Please, if you
That's what I want.
If you
Bring your own money.
well, Wanda, like, what kind of budget? You know, when you think about like right now, we county just did their budget, city budget. Like, what kind of budget operating dollars does it take for Brown Deer to function?
A little over 13 million.
Okay.
So it's not a big budget, but it's certainly generated by our taxes. And what I have to tell people, a lot of times people say, my tax dollars. Well, we collect the taxes from the properties. We don't get all that. The county get a portion. The state get a portion. Milwaukee Area Technical College get a portion. And Brown Deer get a portion. That pie is split. So we don't get all that money.
So every vacant building field.
And continue to be the diverse, welcoming community for us to live, work, and play.
Let me do education real quick before you get out of here, though. I saw an article where the kids were going to have to make up like 86 hours.
I know. I saw the same article. And guess what?
What?
I ain't the superintendent of schools, and I'm not the president of the board.
I was just going to ask, in terms of the education piece, how do you play in any of that at all? We
approve. We work with them. We meet with the school district every other month.
Okay.
So that we have a understanding of what's going on in both, because we're the main operating governmental entities in the village.
Okay.
But in terms of the management and all of that, that's under the school board. They have a separate board that's elected.
Okay.
And they work with the superintendent. You heard the same article or saw the same article when I heard it.
And for the community, I'll bring people up to speed on it when Wanda gets out of here. But yeah, a number of people have hit me up and said they love Cream City. It's like they love it.
Well, come over there on Saturday from 3 to 5, and I'll be there.
Well, and look, so just as a quick question too, and you addressed it before, but I'm gonna remind people again, or say it to some people who may not have heard you when you were on the show last week. You are running unopposed. Why are you having fundraisers?
Because it costs money to do literature,
which I have in my hand. which
here's the deal. It costs money. I can only get to so many doors, but the mail can get to every voter.
Right.
And so it costs money to get that information out. And because people say, I want to support you, they may not be able to walk and do doors. They may not be able to drive me around.
Oh yeah, I'm at the donating phase.
Right. But they can donate.
Devo, you laughing way too hard.
And it helps me to get the information out.
Yeah, she gonna have to catch the 15 bar. Yeah, she got to catch the 15 by herself. Educators listening, they said Brown Deer has to make up minutes due to the state audit of seat hours. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about it because I was like,
and you should invite one of the school board members in, or
you know what? I don't even know who's on the Brown Deer school board.
I can get it's on their website.
I never hear anything about the Brown Deer school board. That's another thing. Well, okay, so now I gotta pay attention because honest to God, I never even. And that's just not doing my due diligence. I never even think about that.
But in all fairness, the school district is doing quite well in terms of the
I
performance.
think that's probably why it's not on anybody's radar.
Yeah.
Because you just, well, look at here. The Brown Deer School Board. Meetings at 6 p.m. 8200 Brown North 60th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, I'm going to have to peep in, even though I don't go. I don't have no child in the district.
Yeah, it's online.
Yeah, okay.
It's virtual.
Oh, well, I have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I wanted to thank you because, like I said, I requested this. You know, graciously agreed. But I just think that way too many people of color live in Brown Deer for us not to also understand what's happening in that district. And you know, who knew when you ran that we was gonna be?
I know, because you and Keisha were there in the beginning. You know what? If y'all only knew my transition, my first piece of lit that I thought I was gonna put out, I gave it to Michelle. She looked at it, she said, "Oh no, you can't do this. You need to get the union bug on." I ain't know nothing about no union bug, but I tell you what, everything I do from then on
is there. Well, look, I know
and I told other people.
I know you got to get out of here. You got a meeting to go to. I'm proud of the work that you are doing as we celebrate Women's History Month. I think that you are one of the women that we certainly got to celebrate and acknowledge, because this was, on some ways, an unlikely journey. Others, it makes total sense, given y'all family.
It was unlikely.
Public service. But yeah, none of us saw this one coming. When we all got that phone call, we was like, wait, what? And that team of folks you put around you, most of whom were women, and some bad sisters. Not to have done this in this way before. So I'm gonna let you get out of here. Thank you so much. And if anybody wants to meet you, talk to you, they can see you Saturday
at Cream City from 3 to 5. Or I have a website, MontgomeryforPresident.com. You can find me on Facebook. I'm visible. I'm out there. So anybody that want to talk to me, I don't back down from no conversation.
and look,
Even the ones with their German Shepherds.
y'all gonna see her because you're gonna know the hair as soon as she walks
That's
up.
true. That's true.
She got the distinctive hair. Thank you so much, Wanda.
Thank you.
All right, family. So I am rapping. Am I? Yes. Am I rapping? Am I? You know what? Everybody think about y'all. Well, because we got
Northwest Funeral.
Northwest Funeral has to come on.
Yeah.
All right, family. So I'm gonna do this.
Wanda to come in and took up all the time.
Well, that was the plan, bruh. That was the plan. See, talking
Yeah,
slick.
talk
Tell her,
trash.
I got to be gone by 1:15.
So I would just say this.
Get him, Miss Wanda.
Somebody need to. So
Madam
thank you.
President.
I will definitely talk tomorrow, because yep, there is something going on with the school district in which they have got to make up. I think they said by the time they got done, minutes here, minutes there of instruction time, it ends up being 86 hours. So, you know, think
It's a whole
about
work week, ain't it? And a day.
That's two.
It's 2 work weeks.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It was
40-hour week.
Wow.
Well, wait, unless you work here, then yeah, that's
Yeah,
That's a day.
all right, family. I'm gonna wrap the show. I will talk to y'all tomorrow, and thank y'all for being with me today. 'Cause, yeah, it wasn't no-
Well, this was Fly by Night.
Fly by night or seat of your pants.
Both.
Thank you, Debo. Thank you, Streetcar.
Yeah,
I'll
one
talk
room.
to y'all tomorrow. Peace.